Okay, so कल वाले उसके क्लास में हमने क्या किया था? We had prepared various colloids और we also said कि जो colloids हमने prepare करे थे, it has impurities of crystalloids. Crystalloids are substances which have electrolytes and ions, right? Now these electrolytes and ions, they have to be separated from the colloids in order to purify the colloids. As a result of which, it is essential for us to purify the colloids, and there are various methods which can be used. The first method which is used, that is dialysis. ठीक है? अब dialysis में what is happening? We are using the principle that the true solutions principle what we are using over here is the true solutions pass through parchment membrane ठीक है, pass through parchment membrane and not colloidal particles. So we have already studied this principle कि whenever we are passing the colloids and crystalloids through parchment membrane, the true solutions they pass through ordinary filter paper as well as parchment membrane, but the colloids they do not pass through parchment membrane but they pass through ordinary filter paper, right? So in order to bring out this process, what we do is we take over here a beaker which has two openings, one over here and the other one which is over here. ठीक है? अब इस वाले opening में हम लोग एक टैप लगा के रखते हैं, right? This is the inflow of water which we are giving in this. So this beaker is filled with water. Okay? And over here we take a hook, and in this hook a parchment membrane that is suspended. This polythene bag or cellophane paper or parchment membrane, it consists of colloids plus crystalloids which are the electrolytes or the ions. Now slowly and gradually what is going to happen, these ions they are going to be mobile and they diffuse out through the parchment membrane, right? The concentration of the ions that keeps on increasing inside the beaker, as a result of which pure water keeps pouring in from here, and as the level of water will increase, the ions they will flow out from this outlet. ठीक है? So इस वाले outlet से क्या हो रहा है? We are separating the crystalloids plus water. What is the purpose of replenishing water again and again? Why are we putting water again and again? Fresh water we are replenishing over here. The main purpose of this is that there are chances that if the concentration of the crystalloids it will increase in water, then the crystalloids will start reversing back inside the parchment membrane, which we do not want to happen. ठीक है? So that is the reason why we are replenishing the water again and again. So what are we doing over here? We have taken the impure colloid inside the parchment membrane and suspended it in water, as a result of which the crystalloids they are going to pass outside from here, and the pure colloid that is retained inside the parchment membrane, right? Now this process is a very slow process. In order to speed up this process, we apply an electric field in the beaker, right? So when we are applying electric field, the process that speeds up, and the process is now known as electrodialysis, right? Electrodialysis. This process is very commonly used for purification of blood, purification of blood, which is also a colloid. By किसके लिए होगा purification of blood? For patients which have kidney failures. patients which have kidney failures. So this is a kind of apparatus in which the purification of blood that is taking place, right? Then the process by which this purification of blood is taking place, this is known as hemodialysis. It is known as hemodialysis. Okay, then the second method of purification, that is known as ultrafiltration. Now in ultrafiltration, what we do is we convert ordinary filter papers into ultrafilter papers. The pore size of ultrafilter papers, that is very less as compared to filter papers. So these ultrafilter papers, they behave as what? They are going to behave as parchment membranes. Okay? So how do we convert the ordinary filter paper into ultrafilter papers? The first procedure is by applying jelly or gelatin on filter papers. When we apply jelly on filter papers, the pore size of the filter papers, it decreases and it starts behaving like parchment membrane, and we can use the same procedure what we are using over here, right? Now another method to convert ordinary filter papers into ultrafilter paper is using special kind of solutions which are known as colloidal solutions. Okay? What are these colloidal solutions? The colloidal solutions, they are generally 4% solution of nitrocellulose, okay, which is prepared in a mixture of ether plus alcohol. So what are we doing in this process is that we are taking ordinary filter paper, okay, then we are dipping that in formaldehyde, right, and then we are dipping it in colloidal solution. After that filter paper, it becomes very hard on drying. So the pore size of that filter paper, it becomes very small in comparable to the filter papers which is otherwise used. So these ultra filter papers are going to behave, as I just told you, in a similar manner as the parchment membrane, and the colloids, they can be separated from crystalloids. Okay? Then we go on to the third method, which is known as ultracentrifugation. The third method is ultracentrifugation. In ultracentrifugation, what we do, we take a sealed glass tube in which the colloid plus the crystalloid is taken. This glass tube, that is clamped to a rotating stand. Okay? And this tube is rotated at a very high speed. When we are rotating this at a very high speed, that process, that is known as centrifugation. It's just like you're churning cream to make butter. ठीक है, जैसे मलाई से मक्खन बनाते हैं इनसाइड द मिक्सर ग्राइंडर, तो उसी तरह से हम यहाँ पे क्या करेंगे कि इस ट्यूब को बहुत हाई स्पीड के ऊपर रोटेट करते हैं. When it is rotated at a very high speed, it is seen that the colloidal particles, being heavier, they settle at one corner like this, right? So this is the colloidal particles. Colloidal particles which settle at one corner, and the crystalloid particles, they are suspended in the solution. So we can now very easily separate the colloidal particles from crystalloids, ठीक है। फिर उसके बाद ये जो colloidal particles हमने separate करे हैं, इसको we mix it in a suitable dispersion medium to regenerate the colloid. Regenerate the colloid. Have you understood what we've done? We've taken the impure colloid in this sealed glass tube. At a very high speed we are rotating it. When we rotate it, the colloidal particles being heavier, they settle at one corner, and the crystalloid particles, they are left in the solution. So now you can separate the colloidal particles. These colloidal particles are again mixed with a suitable dispersion medium so as to regenerate the colloid. So these are the three methods of purification. Now in our previous class we had done two types of colloids depending upon the forces of attraction between the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium, which were the neophilic and the neophobic colloids. Okay? Today we are going to do three other type of colloids. Okay. So the other type of colloids which we are going to discuss today, the first one, they are known as multi-molecular colloids. Multi-molecular colloids. Now this multi-molecular colloidal solution, it consists of aggregates of small particles having size less than 1 nanometer. Having size less than 1 nanometer, right? So basically the size of these particles, they are very small. So if these particles, they are not aggregated together, they will fall in the true solutions. So in this multi-molecular colloids, these particles, they aggregate together such that they form particles of size in between the colloidal range, right? Now what are going to be the forces of attraction which are present between different particles? The forces of attraction, that they are van der Waals forces. Okay? They are going to be van der Waals forces of particles. So these particles, examples which we can take over here is particles of gold sol. They are cluster of many small particles of gold which come together, and particles of sulfur sol. Okay, so these are multi-molecular colloids. The second type of colloids which we are going to discuss, these are macromolecular colloids. Macromolecular colloids, they are dispersed particles which already have very big size. Dispersed particles of high molecular masses. So these have already sizes in the colloidal range. Okay? So that is how they are going to form colloids. Now when we are saying that they are of high molecular masses, we are talking of polymers over here. Okay? So basically a lot of polymers, they come under the macromolecular colloids, and another example which we can take over here is that of proteins. Proteins also come under macromolecular colloids. Okay? Then the third type of colloids which we are going to discuss, they are associated colloids. Associated colloids are aggregation of ions. This is the difference between multi-molecular colloids and associated colloids. That multi-molecular colloids, they are aggregates of small neutral molecules, right? Whereas associated colloids, they are aggregation of ions. Now these associated colloids, they behave as normal electrolytes. They behave as normal electrolytes at low concentrations. Right? They behave as normal electrolytes at low concentration and as colloids at higher concentration. As colloids at higher concentration. So when the concentration of electrolytes that increases in a solution, the ions, they start coming together forming clusters, and these clusters, they are known as associated colloids. A very common example, or in fact the most important example of this is micelles. Okay? So micelles, they are generally formed, you know that they are generally formed in soaps and detergents. Okay? So in this case, in micelles, what is happening? The smaller particles or smaller ions, they are coming together in aggregation and therefore forming these associated colloids which are known as micelles. The formation of micelle takes place at a particular concentration which is known as CMC. So CMC means critical micellization concentration. For the formation of any specific kind of micelle, it is important for the substance to reach this concentration. Okay? Now, if the concentration goes higher than CMC, if the concentration is higher than CMC, we get a special kind of micelles which are known as laminar micelles. Right? These are layered micelles which have, you can say, which have extended parallel sheets. So if you're talking of lamellar micelles, they generally are, right? They have layers like this. These layers, they resemble the biological membranes. Okay? These, they are going to resemble the biological membranes. Then we have concentrated solutions. We have another kind of micelles which are formed, which are in the form of long cylinders. Right? They are in the form of long cylinders, and these are known as litotropic micelles. These are going to be known as litotropic micelles. So we have two types of micelles. One in which the CMC, the concentration is higher than CMC, and they exist as layer, which are known as laminar micelles. And the other one in which they are formed in the form of long cylinders, and they are known as litotropic micelles. Okay? Then for the formation of micelle, we also say that a particular temperature is required. What is that temperature known as? So when we are talking of a certain temperature, the temperature is known as Raft temperature. Right? So micelle form ionic surfactants at a particular temperature which is known as Raft temperature. So it is the temperature required for formation of micelles. Right? So if we are taking micelles as molecules of soaps and detergents, then the micelles, they can be represented as this kind of a structure. Okay? For example, if we are taking stearate iron, that is, or we are taking sodium stearate, C17H35 COONA. Okay, so this is going to have a structure like this, in which this is the tail, which is the hydrocarbon part over here. This is going to form the tail. Okay, so this tail, it is going to be non-polar in nature, right? Whereas this portion which is present over here, COO negative, this is the polar head. So you can see a negative side over here or a negative side which I have put over here.
Actually, what are polar and non-polar?
I just said. So ये जो हो गया, this is going to be head which is polar. Now let's understand what do we mean by these two terms, non-polar and polar. We have done this in chemical bonding in class 11. Polar means when they have difference in charges. Okay? Negative charge and positive charge. Jैसे for example, if you are talking of HCl. So we know over here that chlorine, it is electronegative. So the molecule of HCl can be represented like this. Chlorine being more electronegative, it will attract the shared pair of electrons towards itself. So electron density on chlorine, that is going to increase. As a result, chlorine will get a slight negative charge and hydrogen will get slight positive charge. There are two charges which are developed over here. Because of these two charges developed, they have two different poles. So such molecules, they are said to be polar. Okay? So on which charge is developed. But when we are talking of non-polar over here, C17H35, this is a long hydrocarbon chain on which there is no charge at all. Okay, so that is going to form a non-polar tail. So head over here is going to be polar, which consists of negative charge of COO negative and Na positive, that is resembling that is residing on the surface. Okay, so यहाँ पे we have one positive and one negative, which is the head, and therefore we say that the head, that is polar in nature. Okay, now the head over here, that is, because it is polar in nature, it is going to be hydrophilic, which means water attracting or water loving. ठीक है? And the tail, because it is non-polar, therefore it is said to be hydrophobic in nature, that is water repelling or water hating. Right? Now with the help of this structure, we can explain very well the cleansing action of soap. So what are we saying? That mostly soaps, they behave as micelles, and soaps, they are used for cleaning clothes. So what is the cleansing action of soap? We know that the dirt or any cloth that is getting dirty because the dust that is attracted by grease or oil to the cloth. Okay? So let's say that this is the particle of, let's draw a bigger particle. This is the particle of grease or dust which is stuck on the cloth. Okay? Now because this has oil, as a result of which the micelles, the non-polar part, that is more soluble in oil, and the polar part, that is going to be more soluble in water. Okay? So the micelles, they arrange in such a manner around this dirt particle so that all the polar tails, they are penetrating into the dust particle. Okay? Now what are these tails going to do? They are going to break down the dust particles into smaller particles. So this dust particle is, let's say, divided into smaller particles. Now each of this smaller particle is again going to be surrounded by micelles like this. Slowly and gradually the particle size, that will keep on becoming smaller. So when the particle size becomes very small, just by agitating the particles or rubbing the particles with hands and rinsing it with water takes away the dirt particles with water. ठीक है? So this is what the cleansing action of soap is. So what is the main action or main purpose of the soap over here? It is to reduce the oil and grease dirt to colloidal particles. So the bigger particles, they keep on becoming smaller. ठीक है? So this is the cleansing action. Soaps, they are generally known as emulsifying agents. What are emulsifying agents? This will come up in the next lecture which we do, the last lecture of surface chemistry. ठीक है? So otherwise you should remember that soaps, they are the emulsifying agents. Got it? Then after that we go on to properties of colloids. Properties of colloids. When we are looking at properties of colloids, the first property of a colloid is that the colloids, they are heterogeneous in nature. The colloids are heterogeneous in nature, which means that it has two phases over here. One which is known as the dispersed phase and the other one which is known as the dispersion medium. ठीक है? Then number two, we say that the colloidal particles, they are, we have just started that colloidal particles are associated molecules, right? So associated molecules means that they are going to have greater molar masses, okay? You have studied the colligative properties in chapter 2, right? We know that the colligative properties are inversely proportional to molar mass, right? Now because colligative properties are inversely proportional to molar mass, therefore the colligative properties of colloids, that is going to be less than expected. ठीक है? They have greater molar masses. Because of greater molar masses, the colligative properties will have a lower molecule, lower value. ठीक है? They will have less colligative properties than expected. Then number 3, all the colloids, they show Brownian movement. Brownian movement, what do we understand by Brownian movement? It is the zigzag motion of particles. Because the size of colloidal particle is in between the suspensions and the true solutions, so these particles, they have a tendency to show this motion. When we are talking of true solutions, the particle size is very, very small. It gets completely associated with the solvent, as a result of which they are not free to move about, right? And as it is, we say that it has a homogeneous nature. When we go into suspensions, the particle size is so big that it mostly settles down in the, for example, if you are taking sand. So sand in water, it is going to settle down. So it mostly settles down, therefore it does not show this kind of a behavior. So it is only the colloidal particles which show Brownian movement. The name is after the, it is to honor the scientist who had given this name. Okay? So this is what Brownian movement is. Then afterwards, we have another thing, that colloidal particles, very, very important. Colloidal particles, they carry electric charge. Okay? We know that there are two types of phases which are present, which is the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium. So if the dispersed phase, which are the colloidal particles, they are having a positive charge, then the dispersion medium will have an opposite and equal charge so as to make the colloid stable. Okay? Otherwise, if the dispersion medium will have the same charge as that of the colloidal particles, repulsion is going to take place, which is going to make the colloid unstable. Okay, so they have electric charges, and these electric charges, they can be proven by two processes. The first one, which is known as electrophoresis, right? Now in electrophoresis, when we are talking of colloidal particles having electric charge, we are mostly talking about leophobic colloids, not leophilic. Okay, we are talking of leophobic colloids. So let's take leophobic colloids. Let's take a negative colloid, which is arsenic sulfide. So what are we doing in this process is, we are taking an inverted U tube, okay, and this is connected to an electric field. Let's say this is the negative terminal and this is the positive terminal of the electric field. Okay, now we have taken the colloidal solution in this, and this has two strips of electrodes. Okay, inside this we have taken a colloid which is arsenic sulfide. Slowly with time, what we see is there is certain deposition of particles on the positive terminal of the U tube, right? Thereby suggesting that over here the colloidal particles, they have started moving towards the positive particles or the positive electrode, right? You have to remember over here that in electrophoresis, movement of only colloidal particles is going to take place. Okay, movement of only colloidal particle is going to take place. Movement of the dispersed dispersion medium, that is restricted. The dispersion medium is not going to move. Okay, so because this colloidal particles, they are moving towards the positive terminal, therefore we say that As2S3 is a negative colloid. Okay, similarly, if we would have taken ferric hydroxide instead of arsenic sulfide, it was observed that the colloidal particles of ferric hydroxide, they were moving towards the negative terminal, and thereby suggesting that this is a positive colloid. So generally leophobic colloids, we say, which are chemical colloids, they are negatively and positively charged. Okay? Another method which we can use over here is that of electroosmosis. Electroosmosis. Now, as over there the colloidal particles were moving, in this case it is the dispersion medium which is going to mobilize or which is going to move, and the colloidal particles, that is the dispersed phase, movement is restricted. Okay? So over here this consists of an apparatus in which so इस तरह से compartments इस पे बने रहते हैं. Let's say this is compartment A, this is compartment B, and this is compartment C, right? This is the negative terminal and this is the positive terminal over here. ठीक है? Now these two, they are semi-permeable membranes. Okay, now over here compartment A and compartment B, we are taking water over here. this mark which I have drawn over here, let's say this is A dash and this is C dash. Okay? Inside the B compartment, we are taking the colloid. Okay? Now, as soon as electric current is passed through this apparatus, right? If the colloidal particles are negatively charged, it means that the dispersion medium that is going to be positively charged. That is what we have just studied. The electrical charges means that if a colloid is having a positive charge, the dispersion medium will have an opposite and equal charge. So if we are saying that the colloidal particle, that is the dispersed phase over here, that is going to be negative, it means the dispersion medium that is going to be positive. Okay? Now in this, only the dispersion medium that is allowed to move. So if we have a negative colloid, the dispersion medium is positive, we will see that the dispersion medium that will travel towards the compartment A, as a result of which the water level, it crosses this A dash mark. Right? There is a small line which can be drawn over here just to exhibit a kind of an indicator you can see. Right? So the colloid, the dispersion medium, it starts moving towards and crosses this A dash mark. If it crosses the A dash mark on the A side, that is on the negative terminal, it means that the dispersed phase is a negative colloid. And if it is moving towards the positive terminal, it means that the colloid that is going to be, the dispersed phase is going to be positive. Have you understood? So what is happening over here is, let's just discuss it again, that we have taken a negative colloid over here. If we take a negative colloid, the dispersion medium, that is going to be positive. Right? So if it is positive, it will start traveling towards negative. So if the water mark increases or the water level increases in the A compartment, that is towards the negative side, the colloid that is going to be negative. It will have the same charge. And if the water level increases towards C dash, right, that is towards the positive side, then the colloidal particles, they are going to be positively charged. So these two processes, that is electrophoresis and electroosmosis, they both suggested that the colloids, they are going to be charged particles. Okay? So this is one. Then the next one, very very important, which we are going to discuss over here, is the Tyndall effect. It is the Tyndall effect. Tyndall effect generally comes under the optical properties, right? Tyndall effect. It is seen that whenever a light is passing through a soul, the beam of light or the path of light that is visible. This visibility of the path of light is due to Tyndall effect, which arises due to scattering of light. Okay? Due to scattering of light by colloidal particles. Okay? So this is what is Tyndall effect. Now when we are talking of true solutions, they do not show Tyndall effect. You can write down. They do not show Tyndall effect because their particles are not sufficiently large so as to scatter the beam of light. Okay? Then number 2, second point which you have to write down over here is that the intensity of scattered light the intensity of scattered light depends on the difference between refractive indices of the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium. Right? So there has to be a sufficiently large, you can say, difference between the refractive indices of the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium in order to show Tyndall effect. It is not, we can't say that all the colloids they are going to show Tyndall effect. That does not happen. When we are talking of leophobic colloids, in case of leophobic colloids, there is a marked difference between the refractive indices of dispersed phase and dispersion medium, as a result of which in leophobic colloids the Tyndall effect is very well defined. Okay. Whereas when we are talking of leophilic colloids, in this case the difference between the refractive indices of the dispersed phase and dispersion medium, it is very small. Okay. As a result of which the Tyndall effect over here is very weak. Sometimes it is so weak that it is not visible at all. Okay? So these are the properties of colloids. Now we are just left with the last, you can say, section of this chapter, which we will finish in the next class. Okay?